Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aspasia and this is my channel, Asparagus is Reading. It has been a while. So today's video is going to be my October TBR. If you have not been following me on Instagram, you should. This is basically how I do a lot of things. I've noticed that if I let myself make my TBR, I tend not to read it. And if I tell myself to do things, I tend not to read it. So when I actually tell other people, I feel a lot more responsible, and so I feel like I need to do that more just to like make sure I get things done, if that makes sense. So yesterday night on my Instagram stories and also on my highlights, I posted about like 6 or 7 different categories of books, and I asked you guys on Twitter and Instagram. So I have like 6 or 7 categories, and I asked you guys to give me a random number between blank and blank. So for example, I think one category is like ebooks from 1 to 14, and I asked you to give me a random number, and someone gave me like 6. And so whatever number was chosen the most, that corresponding book will be read, or hopefully be read, hopefully. There are 6 categories. I'm probably gonna put like the screenshots of the polls or whatever that I posted, questions here, so you can see what I'm talking about. But the first one was Kindle ebook 1 to 14, NetGalley ebook 1 to 13, hardcover 1 to 5, paperback 1 to 5, rereads 1 to 5, and currently reading 1 to 7. Some of these books do overlap categories. So for example, I believe Fairest is under hardcover and reread and currently reading. And then I have like Tweet Cute on here maybe once or twice. All the Stars Teeth is on here once or twice. So if a book gets chosen once or twice, I'm either, depending on how I feel when I like look at the results. So if I feel like, okay, I'm probably gonna read a lot next month, then I'll choose the second highest vote. And if I feel like I'm not going to be reading a whole lot, I'm probably gonna just combine categories / prompts for the one book. I'm nervous because I'm giving you guys all the control, and some of these books I'm not as excited to read, especially NetGalley. I mean, there's some good ones on NetGalley. I'm just scared to read them. So hopefully some good books. When I looked at it this morning, the results are going in a good direction. It is now hours and hours later, and I'm scared because some of those have definitely changed. Also, I wanted to mention my TBR will not only be these books, it will also consist of textbooks, but I don't think I'm gonna mention those. And I'll see you guys in my next clip, or when we finally reveal the books. Alright, so I have decided to sit on the floor for the rest of this video because I like sitting on the floor apparently. So it is Wednesday, September 30th, almost October. It's been a couple days and the results are in. I do believe there was a clear winner for all the categories. However, there was a tie for 2 categories. I think one category was fairly close to have a tie, because there were a couple people on Twitter who had responded and they like jumped up a certain book, but it still didn't win. So let's just get into these books, shall we? So the first book I'm going to be talking about, let's just start from the bottom. My currently reading category. I decided to choose 6 or how many books? Yeah, I think I chose 7 books on that list that weren't like textbooks, because if they're textbooks I'm gonna end up reading them anyway, so I didn't really care. And the winner of this one ended up being number 3. That is Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I am supposed to be reading like 2 or 3 of these every month for my Shadowhunter read along. Yeah, that's not happening. I think the reason why I started to slow down with it is because I've already read many of these books multiple times, and for me, if I read books multiple times in a fairly close time span, I notice that I'm not enjoying it as much because I'm like, oh yeah, I already know what happens in the next 60 pages. Flip, like I just want to skip. I don't really want to read through it if I already know what happens, which I think is why I don't reread books as much. So I started to slow down on the Cassandra Clare because I didn't really feel the need to read it if I already knew what happened. And I'm like, Aspasia, you're dumb, just read it, because there's things that you'll forget about, and surprisingly there were things I forgot about. And so now I'm like 8 million books behind on my read along, which is probably going to get extended to 2021, 2022. Because we are now, what's tomorrow? October? And don't think I've read a single Cassandra Clare book since like quarantine started. So I won't say too much about this one in particular. This one is book 3 in the From Devices series, my all-time favorite Cassandra Clare trilogy so far. Could change, but as of right now, it's my favorite. I mean, this one is like the wrap-up ending of a lot of things, and the ending is very sad and makes a lot of people cry. I was in my feelings for a while when I read this. I think this one is signed. Maybe, I don't know. This one, I think, was my least favorite out of the trilogy. I don't remember why I didn't like this one that much. I think it's because it's the ending. I was just upset that it was, my characters are gone. But I'm excited to read it, because honestly I think this is the one that I remember details the least. The next category was a reread. I wanted to try to reread a book next month because I was very contradictory to what I just said about rereading. I've noticed that I have been able to reread a lot or reread contemporary romances that really pulled me out of my slump. So I was hoping to have at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 books on this list that fit anything I just said, reread contemporary romance. And so I chose 5 different books that I wanted to reread that have really been catching my eye. And the winner for this one was also number 3, and that is Rise, Surviving the Fight of My Life by Paige Van Zandt. One thing I really like about this book is that she has a trigger warning page, which I thought was really interesting because most books do not. And a lot of times the author might not even tell you. They'll just, you just read it and you find out for yourself, or a reviewer will tell you. I definitely think books and authors should start doing that more, instead of waiting for readers to read it and discover it and be triggered and upset and have to tell others and warn them. You know what I mean? Like, it's not good. It's just not good. But anyway, this is her biography, I guess you could say, about her life. And this revealed a lot about Paige that we didn't even know until this came out. If you're interested in this, I highly suggest being careful. Let me give you trigger warnings. This has trigger warnings for sexual assault, sexual violence, rape, sexual abuse, and I do believe there's drug use in here. I can't remember, or at least mention of it. So, oh, and suicide discussion. So be careful about that. I picked this up because I like reading, and this is like one of the celebrities that I really liked for like 3 years straight. I don't know, I had like an obsession with her for like 3 years straight. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's writing a book. Let's get the tea. Tell me about this stuff. And I read it. At the time, I didn't really have an annotation system, so I can see there's like these big, clunky, ugly sticky notes. So I'm hoping that when I do reread this, I can replace that with something cuter. The next category is one of the ones that tied, and this one is for paperbacks. I do believe I said choose between 1 and 5, and ended up doing 3 and 4 that were tied, and that is The Host by Stephanie Meyer and Strike to Disturb the Peace by Patty Yumi Cottrell. This I got from my friend. Ooh, that is very washed out. Oops. And this I got as a gift from a booktuber who no longer is a booktuber. I think I entered a giveaway and didn't even realize it was like their giveaway until I got it with the note. And then within the next couple months and just the entirety of 2020, that person really showed their colors and their attitude towards certain people, and I was just very disgusted. So I'm tempted to get, like, I just feel like now, like, that negative association is with this book, so I'm tempted to get rid of it, but at the same time I like the movie. I don't know, if you know what person I'm talking about, so these two tied. I kind of want to go for this one just because I don't know this story. I already seen the movie and read this, well, parts of this, and this is much shorter. But at the same time, I want to read this just because I like the movie. But this is so long. I did get 200 pages in when I started it, and then my slump started and never finished. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. So I'll probably choose between one of these if I don't end up reading both of them. The next category that tied is my hardcovers, and that is number 1 and number 4 that tied, which were Ferris by Gail Carson Levine and Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dugan. I love this book, love this author. Probably read this almost every single year for a couple of years straight. This haven't read yet, but I have read a different book by this author. Let me just tell you, I was shook. I was not expecting the other book that I read by this author to be as what it was. Because when you look at this, you think cute contemporary romance. That's what I thought about her other book. It was that, but also wasn't. So, it became one of my favorites of the year. So I'm actually really excited to read this. They're all both pretty short. I've already read this like 20 million times. I'm pretty sure I could fly through it. I'm like that way through. So 2 more books. And the last 2 categories that I have were my Kindle ebook and my NetGalley ebook. I put these in 2 separate categories just because they're both big in themselves. I think NetGalley is like 14 books and Kindle is also 14 books. And so for Kindle, Real Catch by Kylie Gilmore won. I believe that was like number 7. It had like 4 or 5 votes, so it won. If I've interpreted the description correctly, it reminds me a little bit of The Selection, where the prince/king has to be married and popping out baby soon. And there ends up being a bit of a competition with a group of women to really win him over or be the wife and bearer of his birth mother, bearer of the heir of the crown, if that makes sense. So it is an adult romance. So if this is about to be Selection but adult, sign me up. Alright, and for my NetGalley ebook, the winner ended up being number 2, Light It Up by Kekla Magoon. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a little scared for this book. It definitely followed along the same lines as The Hate You Give. This is about a 13-year-old girl who is walking home from school, minding her own business, and then she never makes it home. And so I guess they find out that this police officer, whatever they call him, shot and killed a 13-year-old girl, and basically the entire community is angry. There's protests and, you know, all of that lovely stuff that's happening now, because in the United States that's the same thing that's happening now. Love my country. And I really enjoyed the Hate You Give, but that was a very emotional for me, just because I am a black female and I know what that's like to live every day with that constant fear. And so I really like that authors are telling these stories and being more vocal about this, and that the world is really coming to a point that this needs to stop. But it's also still very difficult to read and talk about. So I feel like that if any of these books put me in a slump, I definitely think you'll either be The Paige Van Zandt and Light It Up, just because those are more serious and will really get me emotionally messed up. And I do feel like Host might, just because that's long. Maybe. Let me read this one. I think Sorry to Disrupt the Peace might be as well, just because this talks about suicide. So we're gonna have an emotional roller coaster in October. Alright, so that is all the books for my October TBR. Thank all of you on Instagram and Twitter for participating. If this goes successfully, as in I read a lot of the books, or I really like a lot of the books that I read, I'm probably going to do this again for November and December, just because I had fun, and I mean, like, why not? So I will hopefully keep y'all updated either on Twitter, my Bookstagram, or here. Most likely Bookstagram. And I'll see you on the next video.